Bienvenidos. Soy la Bruja Espinada, and I am here with your Buck Moon in Aquarius full moon message. So let's get started. A lot of change. I believe. I don't want to say the wrong planet. I believe Saturn is in retrograde. And it's actually very interesting with this being a full moon in Aquarius. There's a lot of encouragement towards embracing your authentic you. What makes you unique? What makes you different? Instead of hiding away the weirdo that you are or the weird things that you like, is allowing yourself to fully express who you are fully. So the first cards that came flying out are the Five of Wands in reverse. We do have the Knight of Cups and the King of Wands in reverse. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Page of Pentacles, Six of Cups, Three of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, Six of Swords in reverse, the Seven of Cups, Two of Pentacles, the Sun in reverse, the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, very interesting placement, the Nine of Cups, Temperance, the Queen of Swords, the Seven of Swords, the Ten of Swords, and the Ace of Swords. A lot of swords in this reading. Not necessarily a bad thing. There just has a lot to do with clear communication. Let me make sure that everything is organized neatly here. So, there's been a lot going on. It's been a very, very interesting first half of 2026. It is I don't have a specific word that I'm looking for right now. It's a feeling that I get, that I have. It is a kind of like a cynical laugh. And not as in like an evil cynical laugh. It's just kind of like, I can't believe this BS kind of laugh, right? I get that feeling that quite a few people, because I've gone through it, so I can understand that I'm not the only one that's gone through quite a bit of nonsense. And sometimes it's nonsense that doesn't make any sense. But again, as explained, we are in, I'm double checking my information here in regards to the retrogrades. Let me see. What do we have here? Yes, it is a Saturn retrograde. It's that sense of I'm going to read it to you. It's what's been posted by Girl and Her Moon in regards to the Saturn retrograde. May you remember yourself to be a trustworthy custodian of desire, a sacred steward of vision. May you return to your inner knowing as sacred authority, worthy of listening to, worthy of devoting to. May you discern between force and agency, pressure and stewardship, reaction and response, fear of time and devotion to time. dedicating that time to honoring you. Now, this is actually a very, very interesting reading, especially with how the readings have been leading up to this one. The Five of Wands in reverse is honestly not the first card that I expected to see when it came to this reading. And mind you, it's not necessarily a bad thing. These messages are specifically so that we can learn from it. But the Five of Wands in reverse is typically any, well, not any, but when there is a five, five is an indicator of change, right? And so in this case, the Five of Wands in reverse is sort of like an inner conflict, right? It's something that has to be addressed, and because it is a wand, is talking about something that a hobby, something that is of interest to you. It could be more than a hobby. It could be something that you've been wanting to build upon. Something that's like a passion project, and yet there seems to be some type of conflict, inner conflict in regards to this. Whether external things are kind of keeping you from getting things done, or being able to dedicate time to this, or there's conflict within the hobby. So let's say that you play a sport and there's something going on with the members of the team, that are causing this conflict. There is just this conflict that has to do with this passion. And this is followed with the Knight of Cups. Now, the Knight of Cups is someone who is learning to, I don't want to say regulate their emotions, but they're learning to better navigate their emotions. So when it comes to the Knight of Cups, it is someone who is a little bit more learned than a page, right? So a Page of Cups is someone who is barely learning the ins and outs of what it is to be emotionally healthy. Whereas a Knight, let's say, has gone to therapy, or has been reading enough self-help books on emotional healing. So when this card is coming out, especially after the concept of this Five of Wands, and what my favorite thing is the way that this individual is holding their cup of tea with that side eye. It's that indicator of like, I'm emotionally sound enough to know that someone else may be acting the fool, maybe noticing when someone else is emotionally immature, or clocking that they may need therapy or counseling to heal themselves. So it's very interesting to see this in between the Five of Wands in reverse and then the King of Wands in reverse. The King of Wands in reverse has a lot to do, because it's a king, right? It's a higher sovereign. Typically, notice I say typically they are associated with being, or that they should be, more learned in these things. But when it comes to this being the wands, there is some sense of impulsivity, or there are very high expectations. So let's say that you joined this sports group, team, whatever. I'm just using this loosely, doesn't have to be that, but something where either you're working with other people. There's other people that are included in this. You are not alone when it comes to this hobby or passion project. This is why it's that conflict, that inner conflict. And there's with the high expectations, there could be some impatience. So it's very interesting to see, especially with the Knight of Cups and the way that she is side-eyeing that situation. This is you. And maybe, let's say you have joined this team or group, or like, excuse me, I was having bubble water. Or people that are in the similar, have the similar interest of this hobby. There's this feeling of conflict. Now, whether it's something that you're noticing and you're keeping it inside and don't want to verbalize something, and yet it's causing you to have some type of distaste, or it's not meeting your expectations of what you thought it was going to be. It's interesting. I get the feeling of annoyance. Now, it could be, and this is just what's coming to mind, it could be that you just don't vibe with those people. Or there might be one or two individuals that you just might not vibe with, or you thought you vibed at first, and then you're getting to know them a little bit more, or they're sharing a little bit about themselves or things about themselves, and it just doesn't vibe with you because you're not on that same level, or that you just don't agree on those type of things, and that tends to happen, right? And I'm trying to gauge this message because those are the only wands that do appear. The rest of the cards are cups, and the rest of the cards are swords. Now, there's a lot of cups are emotions, and swords is communication. So let's just continue before I delve into solidifying what the message is going to be. Let's break this down a little bit more. So yes, there's a sense of annoyance when it comes to the Five of Wands, the Knight of Cups, and the King of Wands. Mind you, the 2, 5, and King are in reverse. There is a little bit of peeved feelings, but it's followed by Page of Pentacles. Now, Page of Pentacles is someone who's learning to invest, someone who's learning how to manage their resources. It could be financial, it could be collaborative, it could be just about anything. But it's someone who's learning. It's a state of learning. It's followed by the Six of Cups. Now, the Six of Cups is a very interesting card, and it's upright. Now, mind you, the Knight of Cups, again, is one that has leveled up a little bit when it comes to emotional health, emotional regulation, emotional understanding. And the Six of Cups is a very interesting card because this is an indicator of remembering the past, thinking on the past. And while it's good to think on the past, it's good not to wallow in the past. Don't wallow in it. Don't stay there too long. You don't live there anymore. You live here and you're moving forward. So it's very interesting that this setup is very interesting. It's very interesting. Anywho, so yes, don't wallow too much on the past. Next, we have the Three of Pentacles. Now, the Three of Pentacles, Pentacles being resources, and there is three. Now, why I find this reading very, very interesting is I'm trying to understand. Okay. Three of Pentacles has to do with teamwork, collaboration, learning, starting something up, right? It's like implementing, like you're starting something. So, okay. Which, it makes sense if you're a bit annoyed, especially these are people that you're not too familiar with, or maybe it's your first time working on a deeper level with them. So there is that sense of like wanting to get it over with, that hastiness, that wanting to rush, and of course some conflict going on there, especially if it's inner conflict, like you're trying to make things work and yet you're annoyed, especially since this may be a business venture, considering that this is the Page of Pentacles. And the Six of Cups, again, not thinking too much on the past, what it makes me think of is kind of like that. I don't know if you've ever done this. I know that I have had these feelings, and I've expressed this many times when I was doing my grad program, working on my master's. One of the things that I absolutely despised was the fact that we still had to have group projects. And one of the things that frustrated me is I had to work with someone who was very condescending, and they had a lot of free time on their hands. They just so happened to live in another country. They were a military spouse, so they had a lot of free time on their hands, and so they were able to do a lot more on the projects, whereas other team members and myself all worked full-time jobs, as some of the other team members had families, so there was a lot of limitations, and this person was very frustrated about that. And so anyways, projects got done, and I remember, I think it was our third semester, where we were given the option to opt out from working with specific individuals, and at that point I only wrote her name, and I told them that I had worked with her twice in a row, and that if I were to be paired with her again, that I was going to file a complaint with the university, because I could not work with someone as with the personality that she had. So luckily they never paired me with her ever again, which is great, and I never heard of her ever again. Anywho, the point being teamwork, right? Teamwork and collaboration. Sometimes those memories could be like, oh, I hated working in a team. I hated having. Sometimes the best way that you can make a project work is working in a team, depending on what kind of project it is. And it seems as though this is a team collaborative partnership type of a project. Now, this is why I find it very interesting. I'm like, where is this going? Because there's a lot of swords. The Four of Swords now is a very good set of swords. And what I love about this is that indicator of You need to I'm trying to think of the right word, because the ones that are popping into mind aren't the best ones. Typically this is associated with rest, recuperation, um, um, meditation, but what I want to put out there is, this is more of a, you need to sit down and think. You need to sit down and think about this situation, right? The situation that it's bringing up not great memories, but you have things to get done that you want to achieve that requires you to work in this team despite all the side eye and internal conflict and wanting to get it over. This is kind of like you need to go within and think on how to make it work. Now, one of the things that did frustrate me about being in at a master's, like an um, upper grad level uh, point of education, and still having to work in a team instead of being able to get things done on one's own, because one of the arguments that the university had made, because a bunch of people filed complaints about this, because a lot of our cohort, our specific group that were like supposed to graduate together, they all despised working with her. um, but one of the things is that yes, you do have to learn how to work in a team, because depending on where you go to work, you will be in a team. Often, I mean, not often do you get to work alone in that sense, but when you work in a team, you have to be a team player. And not everyone is a team player, but how can you succeed on top, right? And that's where this is. You have to reflect on that. You have to think, okay, this is a situation that I absolutely do not like being in, but how can I make it work? And you have to communicate that with yourself. You have to kind of go within and be like, okay, what genuinely annoys me, and how can I, instead of rushing through things and let it sloppily fall apart later on, so that it works out and we can secure this investment, how can you make it work so that things are better for you? Is it the lack of communication? Does communication need to be improved? Does it that need to be communicated, that there needs to be an improvement on communication? Be like, hey, this isn't working. You need to plan that out for you. What's going to work for you? And as much as you don't want to, because we have the Six of Swords in reverse, and that typically means like resistance, or some unfinished business. And because there's swords, there's a lot of communication that has to happen in this sense. Okay, and that's kind of where you need to go. You need to really come down. I know that you don't want to, but you have to. If you really want to make this work, you have to do this. Otherwise, it's still not going to come to fruition the way that you've been working so hard to. Even if you wish you could do it by yourself, well, if you're in this predicament, you can't. And this is the way that it might work. And it won't work if you can't overcome that resistance. We have the Seven of Cups. Now, the Seven of Cups is opportunity, wishful thinking. It can happen. Of course, things can happen. Things can happen for the positive. And the Seven of Cups is kind of like, it has multiple meanings. One of my favorite meanings that it has is just pick one. Just pick one. In this instance, that has nothing, this isn't it. It's kind of saying there is this opportunity to succeed, and your resistance to doing that is going to be on you, because you have to figure out how to make it work. And being real about it. Being real about it. Be like, well, if I had $1 million, I could make it work. Okay, you don't though. now let's make it work. Your communication style has to change. You have to contemplate on how you're going to communicate what's going to work for you. You have to communicate that. A good solid team requires that communication. And there's that opportunity for that success. Now, it's actually, again, very, very interesting that this reading is placed the way that it is because we have the Two of Pentacles. Now, the majority of these cards are right side up. Again, there's emotional and communication. These are the two major factors here. And it's kind of that indication of, actually just thought of a friend right now. And if you're watching this, you know who you are because we just actually talked about this recently. So, again, the placements. It's explaining there has to be team effort. You got to stop worrying about how things have gone in the past. You have to meditate and reflect on what you need to change. The Six of Swords in reverse. You can't resist it as much as you want to. You just have to take this opportunity to get through working with this team. And then you have the Two of Pentacles. Now the Two of Pentacles, two kitties right here. This is, you have a choice. You have a choice, right? Twos are typically choices. There's multiple priorities. You have a lot of priorities, right? Again, Seven of Cups, it could be multiple opportunities. And yet here, this has to do with like time management or learning how to prioritize what's more important. And also it's how to adapt. One of the biggest things that will help you survive anything is learning how to adapt. And it's not easy. That doesn't mean that you swallow your feelings and aren't allowed to feel annoyed at all. That's not what that's saying. But how can you adapt? How can you make it so that you can power through to launch something, to get something started if you are in a situation where you have to work in a team? How can you adapt? Because adapt is change. And in order to grow, you have to learn how to accept change. And that's the thing. Yes, situations are very uncomfortable, but how can you grow if you're just gonna run? Now, these are beautiful words, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, but I do feel some concern seeing it. I don't ever like seeing, well, there is another card that I hate seeing in reverse the most, but this card is the Sun. The Sun in reverse. Now, the Sun in reverse can mean several different things. It could be referring to, and it might make sense, and we have the Six of Cups here. It could be like that inner child feeling of maybe you were bullied as a kid and they remind you of those personality types, right? And or it could be that you are having issues with depression or anxiety. Another thing is that you could be overly optimistic. Having optimism is a good thing. Now, there's overly optimistic, right? Saying like, not in the sense of not taking it that seriously, right? And be like, nah, it's all gonna work out. It's all gonna work out. And like that concept of like, I'm gonna manifest it because I keep saying it's gonna work out, and the hard work hasn't been done. It's just relying solely on optimism versus the hard work. And if we're talking about adaptability, choosing to change, having those opportunities and working on those opportunities, right? You have to strengthen the opportunities and stop avoiding, stop resisting, and reflect on what needs to get done. You're building that solid foundation. It's followed by the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. We are at the starting point of the Page of Pentacles. Now, typically, as I stated before, the Knight is the next step forward, right? Page is the starting point, Knight is the step up. Now, when you have the Knight of Pentacles, typically it's like, yeah, you know, you're a step forward in regards to achieving what you want to achieve. But the Knight of Pentacles in reverse usually indicates like feeling stuck or focusing too much on perfectionism, like trying to make it perfect. Like if I only had the perfect situation, and no situation is perfect, because there's always going to be a lesson in every situation that you're put into to prove that you've put in the groundwork. Now, this is followed by the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups is a beautiful card. It's a good card. It's a card indicating that you're just that much closer to achieving emotional well-being. And it's not just emotional well-being, but you're closer to the feeling of happiness, right? The ultimate card that you'll typically want to get is the Ten of Cups. But the Nine of Cups is that indicator that you're almost there, right? It's you're grateful for what you have, like genuinely grateful for what you have. You have a feeling of contentment. And I need you to understand how you have the Knight of Pentacles here, and then the feeling that you want to have, that Nine of Cups. And it has to do with whether or not you're willing to put in that work of reflecting and avoiding resistance to grow those opportunities. And you have to make the choice to do so. You have to be willing to make that change. Now, we have my favorite card of all time, Temperance. Everyone's favorite card, Patience. Temperance is the card of patience. Temperance followed by the Queen of Swords. The ultimate no bullshit card. The card of cut that shit out. And this is not just as in asserting your communication of your boundaries, of your needs, in order to not have to be in this side-eye mode. It's working on that communication, but it's not working on someone else's communication. It's working on You communicating. You need to cut the bullshit. You need to stop resisting. Cut the bullshit. You have to accept that we all have to change. It's not just those that you don't like working with. It's you have to change. And it's change for the better, right? It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's you need to improve. Everyone has to improve. No one is perfect. And this is just change for growth. You have to grow. Sometimes the situation or the people that you have to work with suck, but you're never going to reach a level of contentment and gratitude if you can't even communicate. You had to be patient with it and learn how to effectively communicate. We have the Seven of Swords, we have the Ten of Swords. The Seven of Swords is conflict, similar to the Five of Wands in reverse, but that's inner conflict. Now we have actual conflict. There is conflict, and it's not conflict that's going to end well. It's just going to build. And the only way that this is going to be resolved is if you learn how to communicate. Ace of Swords, right side up. Really long roundabout way to get to that. Again, it was a very interesting reading. Mighty Fates. What do you have to add on to this lesson? We have, oh, how interesting. We have love. Love. That's a very interesting card to get with this reading. All you need is love. Let's see. Here we go. Love. This card is an invitation to examine love in all facets of life. This is love of self, love of others, your healthy or not so healthy boundaries, your presence with others, your relationship with intimacy, if you feel seen, heard, passion, joy, and total responsibility. This card could signal a need to build a better relationship internally, or maybe with a partner, in your business or work life, or even towards a goal or a hobby. It could also be a reminder that love is a choice. Sit with these questions. Do you actively work on your relationship with yourself? Do you feel you trust and respect yourself? If you have a partner, do you feel balance in the relationship? Do you feel balance in your friendships? How do you feel in your work environment? What is your relationship with passion? Do you make time for it? What about with intimacy? Do you feel comfortable with it? Do you feel love avoidant or love addicted? What is your attachment style? How do you express love? Our relationship with love in all its forms is always in motion and flux. When this card makes itself known to you, it simply means you should spend a day or two witnessing how love lives in your life. And funny enough, quite a few people that I know will give this side eye when it comes to that question. Let's finish out strong with the animal spirit guides. Animal spirit guides. Ooh, that was fast. We have Crow Spirits, one of my favorite cards. And Porcupine Spirit. Time for the beginner mind. I love the Crow Spirit card. It's one of my favorite cards. As you look around you, can you sense the magic that pulses through the world? Have you witnessed how every thought can become a thing? How every intention can call the universe into action as the sacred laws shape what you experience? The universe works in perfect order. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs with spirit, you will want to crow with delight, feeling the excitement and wonder of being in harmony with something that is much larger than yourself. Crow Spirit says you are right on target. Now see your dreams magically come into being in this visible world. The laws of abundance, compensation, frequency, and praise are operating in your favor now. Remember to be grateful and praise what is yours, even if it's still coalescing into form, still residing in the invisible realms of co-creation. No matter what area of life you're concerned with now, what you hope for is on its way. For Spirit is your co-creation partner. Crow Spirit wants to know why you think there is no magic in the world. Or do you believe that there once was, but it ran out, leaving nothing but ordinariness? Although conditions have been challenging, you have no reason to believe that everything you've set an intention for will elude you. Right now, the outer world is shifting. Can you feel it? Maybe you're fretting about experiencing the results of some of your poor choices or judgments from the past. Crow Spirit is here to remind you that you can always course correct and get back on track. Maybe you've been hit by a loss or disappointment as a result of an event that had absolutely nothing to do with your manifesting, yet is shaking you to your core. Crow Spirit asks you to trust that no matter the temporary conditions, things will right themselves very soon. The law of balance makes it inevitable that this too shall pass. Now let's finish out with Porcupine Spirit. Let's see what they have to say. Here we go. Porcupine Spirit. When Porcupine Spirit calls your name, you're being asked to adopt a beginner's mind, to approach situations with innocence and curiosity. The old, confiding stories no longer have hold on you. Life is full of surprises, hiding in plain sight. Looking at the world afresh with new eyes can help you find what you've been seeking, whether it is a relationship, an opportunity, or evidence. You have all you need now to co-create what you desire. Who knew? Porcupine asks you to be playful and have a childlike curiosity. There's so much waiting for you that you have yet to discover. Are you feeling prickly and defensive lately and assuming you will be hurt before you've seen any sign of that such reaction is called for? Perhaps an old sense of guilt and shame is causing you to be cynical and wary when you are meant to be open and curious. Self-protection is a good thing, but you may be protecting yourself from something that will not actually harm you, but instead will bring you abundance, happiness, and love. Remember your innocence, and you will see what you've been overlooking. Porcupine quills are filled with air, allowing a porcupine to float in water. Now is the time to let your innocent nature keep you buoyant. Time to adapt. So, I genuinely hope that this very interesting reading helps, and I'll see you guys next time.